All right, so this lecture video is going to be about zipping and unzipping files and folders in Python, which we've been doing without Python, obviously, but maybe you have, I don't know. But I have not yet taught you how to do this with Python, but for some homework assignments, I have asked you to submit zipped files. And that is essentially it's in a format that supports lossless data compression, which essentially means that the data that goes in is exactly the data that comes out. Between the zip process and the unzip process, you'll get the same data out that you put in. There's no loss of data, but you can compress the input data into a uh, form that takes up less storage and is transferred faster. Um, but then you can unzip it and won't have to, it'll be the same as what was sent. There's no loss of data or files or anything like that, or integrity of the data as well. Um, uh, so a zipped file is essentially just compressed data that takes up less storage and is transferred faster between machines or programs. And there's these handy dandy algorithms that zip and unzip that allow us to keep our data's integrity in check. So, so there are some things to be aware of though with zip files. So you want to avoid zipping encrypted files. And that is because they'll be unencrypted when they're unzipped, which could result in some bad things like unintentional disclosure of personal or sensitive information. And for that reason, it's recommended that you avoid zipping them. Um, there's also this topic of JPEG images. So some file types like JPEGs are already highly compressed. So if you want to compress and zip several JPEG pictures into a folder, the total size of the folder will be about the same as the original collection of pictures. So you won't really get that much benefit from zipping. Um, then you can also add content to an already zipped folder. So, for example, if for like the project, for example, or for past assignments, I've asked you to put all of your deliverables into a folder and zip them up and submit that to Canvas. Say you did that and then we're about to submit and realize, oh man, I forgot to include a README file, or I forgot this one script. You can just find it or write it up really quick, depending on what it is, and then click it and drag it into the zipped folder and no problem. And lastly, you want to be aware of the security with zipped files. So there are certain Python libraries that allow you to create zip files that are password protected. So we'll look at a couple of them, but we'll actually use one of them. So these are some of the zip modules in Python. Zip file here at the top is what we'll be using primarily. It's part of the Python standard library, which I've linked in the onboarding module of our course. But it's basically the collection of modules and packages that come bundled with Python automatically, like the OS and shutil and JSON modules. So um, zip file is built in to that. Um, it's basically just for general all-purpose zip work. Um, and it is the most commonly used. So that's what we will be using. But there's all these other guys here. I was going to have us use PyMiniZip to do password protection, but there's an issue with dependencies related to C++, and I did not want you guys to have to worry about that. So I found a different module that does not have issues with compatibility and dependencies with other languages like C++. So the one that we will be using to extend the capabilities of the built-in zip file module is called PyZipper. So it is something that you have to install, even though it is an extension of the capabilities of zip file. You have to install those extensions. And those extensions basically are what gives us that ability to encrypt and password protect zip files without having to worry about the C++ dependencies of PyMiniZip. So we will be using zip file and PyZipper. Zip files are general purpose, and PyZipper is going to be what we use when we want to encrypt or password protect zip files. So I want to show you a sample script demoing zip file. So I've imported zip file. It simply reads and writes zip files, super nice. Um, this first part of the script creates a zip file. So I'm going to create a zip file called example.zip, and I'm writing to it. And I'm referring to this object as zipf. So I'm going to say zipf, or yeah, zipf, write the task log.txt file in the task logger.py file. I want those two files to be written to example.zip, and that will create a zip file here in my directory. So if I'll run this script first. Let's toggle block comment. So we're just going to create, and I'll look on the side here to see that it creates example.zip. And if I go to my library, if I go to where I know on my computer where this folder is, so I'm going to go find it. It's in week 14. And you'll see example.zip is right here. And if I click on it and open it, it does contain task log and task logger. So that is nice. Let me see. Yeah, it's the same. Okay. So then if I want to extract stuff from a zip file, I can do this, which I'll comment this out because I don't want to create another zip file. But this is going to allow us to extract or read from example.zip, which is right here. And we're calling the extract all function. So it's going to extract all members from the archive and put it into a folder called unzipped files. And then I'm also printing the names of the unzipped files to my terminal here by calling the name list function in the zip file module. And that just returns a list of the file names within that folder. So if I run this, oh, I need to save it first. All right. So when I ran it, it generated that unzipped files folder, and it unzipped my task logger and task log files. And ignore that. Take me down to the most recent run. There we go. So my unzipped files are tasklog.txt and tasklogger.py, which are the items within the unzipped files list. So that is a demo of zip file. In class on Wednesday, we will talk about, um, we'll actually be talking about object-oriented programming a little bit. Um, and we will also be learning more about the PyZipper script. So that is what we will be doing, part of what we'll be doing on Wednesday. So that is it for the lecture videos. Make sure that you um, check out all of the links that I've given on this module. For example, there's um, links to how to like manually do like zip and unzip files on your operating system if you don't know how to do that, for example. Um, and I think I also mentioned to look at the email automation script, which we talked about on Wednesday last week. Um, I share the code in last week's module as well, but this is it. Um, and I think that's it. So I will see you guys on Wednesday.